Welcome back to Morning Joe. According to the latest Morning Consult national tracking poll, former Vice President Joe Biden leads the Democratic field in the national race with 30% support, leading the field by 8 points. Bernie Sanders comes in second at 22, up 2 points since last week. Senator Elizabeth Warren in third place with 16% support in this poll. Mayor Pete Buttigieg remains at 9%. Former Mayor Michael Bloomberg of New York City up a point, now at 6%. And Andrew Yang is sitting at 4% in this poll. All this since Kamala Harris left the race, by the way. Joining us now, CEO of the Messina Group, Jim Messina. He served as White House Deputy Chief of Staff to President Obama and ran his 2012 re-election campaign. Jim, good morning. We're inside 2 months to Iowa. That's, of course, a national poll. We don't vote in a national referendum. We've been looking state by state as well. What do you see as the state of the race and Joe Biden's durability over the last several months?
Boy, it's true. You know, if you look at Vice President Biden, he's taken a bunch of hits. He's run a, kind of lackluster campaign, but he still is in the lead. And he still is the person that is both in first place in the polls and is the most likely person to be people's second choice. He has the two things you want in the Democratic primary, which is older voters and African-American voters are both solidifying with him. And so he continues to lead in the national polls. But you raised the most interesting question, which is the states. You know, if the polls hold up in Iowa and he doesn't win Iowa and he doesn't win New Hampshire, can he continue to lead a national race where he loses the first two states? That's his challenge.
And no, that's what they're betting on. Sorry, Joe, that the Iowa, perhaps New Hampshire even, Joe Biden could finish third, fourth place. We don't know right now, but that's around where he polls. But he says the race starts in South Carolina, where he has big leads, where he has big support among African-American voters. He'll win Nevada and then sweep into Super Tuesday. That appears to be the framing the Biden campaign at least is putting around this.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.